Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got a bombshell of a report that I have heard no one talking about yet. And that is this: the United Nations has laid out 4 separate gruesome plans for the world. One of those include basically the rise of their new world order, with the United Nations, of course, at the head, controlling all the armed forces of the world. No joke. And I'm going to prove it to you through a United Nations linked organization. But let's just dive right into this, because I think it's critical seeing who we are dealing with and understanding that the globalist body is who is behind getting rid of the president right now. And that's why this is critical. So let's dive right in. Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to noblegoldinvestments.com. If you've not converted your 401k into something solid, please do that now before the economy goes crazy. So give them a call, 1-877-646-5347. All right, so let's get on with this article. Now, this article was published by Democracy Without Borders. Now, if you don't know Democracy Without Borders, they work hand in hand with George Soros funded, and of course, the United Nations. You can see global campaigns and programs right here. And it says, together with our partners, we run global campaigns and programs for the UN Parliamentary Assembly, a UN citizens initiative, and global voting platform. So definitely a globally minded organization. So here it is: 4 scenarios of the future of the United Nations. So this article is basically about which way is the UN going to go. And this was published recently in late November 2019. So here are the scenarios. They give 4 separate scenarios that they say is in the future. The first one here, they call the steady state, right? In this scenario, national governments remain in control of their own destiny. Hallelujah. And they are unwilling to work together on common problems. This means that despite all the talk of global government, the basic nation state structure will remain. It may have its problems, but it's the best of the options. National sovereignty is here to stay because governments are unwilling to surrender it. The UN will be around, they said, to pick up the pieces, but otherwise politicians will not expect to do too much. They will continue to starve it off of its financial resources. For example, Disneyland has more employees than the UN Secretary General. Okay, yeah, Disney is pretty big for starters, but nonetheless, we need to get the hell out of the UN. Let's just put it that way. So any state, for us to have our own sovereignty as our own dang country, I am all for. The US needs to be their own country. Each country needs to be their own, and we need to stop meddling in this UN crap. We survived before. Without it, we can survive in the future, right? Scenario 2. Now, this is, I think, one of the more terrifying ones, because they call it a world state. It's all kind of crazy, but world state. It says, in this scenario, national governments, while they remain in control of their destiny, are willing to work together through the United Nations on common problems. This evolves gradually into some form of global governance. You mean like New World Order style? Yeah, exactly. The scenario is based on there being no purely national solutions to transnational problems. And so governments have to work together through some form of global governance to solve common problems. Just how the world evolves to a different form of government is not yet clear. Here are 3 ways, right, of trying to get countries united. So these are the 3 fronts. And the first one is terrifying. Their federalist approach: the deliberate decision by national governments to transfer powers, certain powers, such as maintaining armed forces. Yes, you read that correctly, to a United Nations world government, while retaining other powers, such as, of course, establishing laws concerning ownership of the property in your land for themselves. In other words, we here at the UN get control of any and all armed forces of countries around the world. That's terrifying. Wow. Let's just federal approach to this whole thing and have this global world government. But I can't even believe this is being entertained. Oh, yes, I can, because it's always been the plan from the get-go. Why nobody is reporting on this, I have no idea. But this is critical, very critical to what's going on. And especially when we see what's happening with the impeachment, because who's behind it? The globalists. The globalists are mad at the Democrats, who they've been paying, I'm sure, under the radar to do these things. And the Democrats aren't following through. So it's new plan after new plan and a new plan to get the nationalist president Trump out because the UN doesn't like him. What's their second approach here? Functional approach, they say. The creation of more global agencies, such as the World Health Organization. Let's just pause. Because President Trump has basically slowly closed down the World Trade Organization. And here they are. We need to open more of them, right? For health concerns. Because experts can cooperate on things like the environment. You mean the false claims of climate change and how you want us to help with that exactly. And then they have populist approach. Interesting. The creation of grassroots people movement to establish a democratic world government directly responsible to the people of the world. No, they wouldn't be responsible to us. We don't even get to vote these people in. So that one is just a sham. And in the meantime, they want to generate ideas for world government and groundswell in favor of it, such as campaign for UN Parliamentary Assembly. Okay, if I haven't learned that's a load of crap. Okay, you're answering to the people of the world. All of us already know they don't answer to us now. They're not going to answer when if we ever hand over complete control. But let's get into scenario number 3, because this actually creates an Earth Incorporated. Basically, this one, the takeover of corporations. But let's read it. In this scenario, national governments lose control of their countries and transnational corporations, transnational, right? Fill the vacuum. With the decline of the UN and the nation-state system, the only organization capable of driving the pace of change in transnational corporations, which then knit the world together into one market as they fill the UN and government vacuum. National governments will not necessarily disappear, no more than local governments, but national governments and the UN will need to get used to the way of the nation-state system and that corporations are a major player in the world affairs. With money as the measurement of all things, national identity ceases to be such a major issue, except yada yada. People are principally consumers and aspiring consumers rather than patriotic citizens. And that's just, of course, again, one of their scenarios. Scenario 4, wild state. And this is the one that they're saying that we're all going to go into if we don't comply to scenario 2, federalist approach, right? If we don't comply to that, this is where we're all heading, a wild state. In this scenario, national governments lose control of their country. The UN cannot fill the government vacuum, and nor can corporations. There is increasing chaos. There is a nightmare scenario in which the nation state fall apart. There is an increase in failed states, mass movements of people, increased environment and health problems, and climate disaster. The previous scenarios are all too optimistic. They have focused too much on order rather than disorder. Under this scenario, each country will have to do what's in their best own interest. The current situation is business as usual, but there are signs of wild state emerging right now. These include rise of nationalist politicians and policies. Oh, wait. A nationalist believes we want our own country to do good, but suddenly the United Nations linked organizations, Democracy Without Borders, says that we are the problems if, the world becomes wild state, that it's because of nationalist policies and politicians. No, it isn't. We are all about getting the hell the UN out of us, and we can have control of our own country. We don't need your sovereignty stealing policies, but it goes on. It's also due to a reluctancy to work together on common problems such as climate change. Hint, hint, President Trump is the problem because he's not signing the Paris Accords. That's their basically word for that. A collective forgetting of the conditions that led up to World War II and a withdrawal at the personal level of self-indulgence, self-absorbed concerns by people preferring to ignore global issues and instead be absorbed with sports and entertainment. In other words, you're part of the problem. If you're not accepting global government and the United Nations, then you're the reason that we're going to end up in the nightmare scenario called a wild state. Yes, this is what they are saying, and it's a bunch of BS, if I'm being honest. It's obvious. The United Nations wants what's best for the UN. They want more power, more authority, more of America. They want the complete takeover of the entire world. And that's just proven by that article. Literally on that article, the United Nations admits that they want control of the entire armed forces through a United Nations linked agency, of course, because they won't say it directly. But this is exactly what they're after. This article should be viral or anything talking about what they actually want to do. If we take our country, what the UN has basically done is they said nationalists are the problem. You're the problem because you want to make America great again, along with your President Trump, which is why they're trying so hard to get him out of office. They care not about the US. They want control and they want takeover. And like they're saying, if you don't give us this scenario, then scenario 4 is going to play out and it's going to be your own fault. Here's what would happen. In all honesty, they would set up some kind of event, right? Some kind of catastrophe, right? Operation Northwoods, right? Wink, wink. And that would be basically how they would incite the chaos and then blame it on the nationalists. This is the kind of stuff we have to deal with. And that's why I support get the US the hell out of the UN. Anyhow, please share this with everyone you know. And if you like what you heard, subscribe. Don't forget to click that little bell. And you actually have to click the bell and select, I want to be notified of everyone now, because they're not sending out notifications literally to maybe 5% of my audience now. So a lot of you are not getting it. So please make sure you click that bell. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.